Now we're in James chapter 2, verse 20, reading from the King James Bible. Quote, "But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead." Unquote. Let's read this in the Greek as far as parsing it out. But wilt. So let's parse wilt. It's written in the present tense, which represents a simple statement of fact or reality viewed as occurring in actual time. It's written with the active voice, represents the subject as the doer, the performer of the action, and an indicative mood, which means it's just a simple state of fact. But wilt thou know? Now let's parse out thou know. It's written in the second aorist tense, which means it's identical to the meaning and translation of the normal, or the first aorist. It is written in the active voice, so that the subject is the doer or performer of the action, and it's written in the infinitive mood, which means that it corresponds with the English infinitive, which means to add like a to in front of it. So, thou know, and let's see how many times does this get used by James. This is used by James one time. It's the only time in the King James Version in the Greek is this used. It's used several times in the Hebrew. Continuing, thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is, let's parse out is. It is in the present tense, so it represents a simple statement of fact or reality, viewed as occurring in actual time. Indicative mood it's written in, so it's a simple statement of fact. Continuing, works is dead. So, plain as can be. So let's take a look at John Gill's commentary on the Bible on this. Quote, "But wilt thou know, O vain man," unquote. These are the words of the apostle, reassuming the argument that faith without works is dead, useless, and unprofitable. And the man that boasts of his faith, and has no works to show it, he calls a vain man, an empty one, sounding brass and a tingling cymbal. Empty vessels make the greatest sound. Such are proud boasters, vainly puffed up by their fleshly mind, but are empty of the true knowledge of God and of the faith of Christ and of the grace of the Spirit. The Syriac version renders it, O weak, or feeble man, as he must needs be, whose faith is dead, and boasts of such a lifeless thing. And the Ethiopic version renders it, O foolish man, for such a one betrays his ignorancy in spiritual things, whatever conceits he has of his knowledge and understanding. The chapter seems leveled against the Gnostics, which was a cult, who were swelled with a vain opinion of their knowledge, to whom the apostle addresses himself thus. The phrase vain man is a proper interpretation of the word Oreka, used in Matthew 5, verse 22, reading from the King James Bible, quote, "But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother, without a cause, shall be in danger of the judgment, and whosoever shall say to his brother, Reka, shall be in danger of the council, but whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire." Unquote. Continuing, see Gill on Matthew 5:22, which, though not to be said to a man in an angry way, yet may be applied to men of such a character as here described, who were empty of solid good, and yet boasted of their knowledge. Wilt thou know? Dost thou require proofs? Quote, that faith without works is dead, unquote. As in James 2:17, quote, King James Version, even so faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone, unquote. Continuing, and that true faith has always works accompanying it, and is shown and known by it. Then take the following instances. So you would continue on. That's the end of John Gill's commentary on this verse. I do want to add something that just took place a couple days ago. We're in a transition period in this household, and we've been working at it for 6 years. We have bills during this transition period that have mounted that need to be addressed. We have things that I've been selling and raising money, and we had, while we slept, enough things sell that when one of my biggest bills came to be automatically withdrawn out of the bank, when it got done, and we knew it was going to happen, when it got done, with what God supplied during the night of the sales that went directly to my bank, $1 left over before there would have been an overdraft, which would have cost me $37 more, which I can't afford at this time. But God took care of that. And then after I saw that, during the night though, He supplied more money. So we've never been wanting. God has always made sure, even at the last moment. We were in a restaurant eating dinner, my suggestion because I didn't want to cook. And it was a very fine establishment in one of the richest areas here. And we happened to be nearby it. I was getting hungry, and there's some diabetes problems, so had to get something to eat. So I said, let's go here, because I knew they had steak. So I knew that would take care of the diabetes problem. And we went in, and we went to order, and I had some money, but it would take away from the bills. So I prayed about it, and the Lord took care of, on my phone, there's an app on my phone. So each time that there's a sale of something that I'm selling, it sounds like a cash register. So when we placed the order, the cash, and the waitress walked away, the cash register rang on my phone. When it came time to pay for the order, the cash register rang on my phone. And I saw that I had enough to pay for the meal without touching the bills. But I had to pay a tip. So when she came back with the bill, he said to me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to take care of it. Okay. So a few minutes later, I came back to pick up the bill, and then I gave him my credit card, which links to my bank. And then as soon as the bill was taken up, cash register rang. I had more money in selling the stuff that I was selling of mine, that it paid for the meal, and it paid for the tip, and it paid for the gas to get there and back, and still left me with a little bit more money. So I didn't touch any of the bills. Now, this was totally unexpected, and I wouldn't normally have done this, but we had problems going on, myself getting very faint, and diabetes going on and everything. So it had to be done. It just could not get home quick enough without problems. And the Lord took care of it because I prayed and I asked. Now, we didn't go hog wild, but we did get the steak. We did get what was needed to take care of the problem at that moment. And God richly supplied. During the entire time that I was in seminary, it has been a roller coaster between my cancer challenges, sicknesses, bills, moving, everything. But God has always supplied. I never took it to the extreme. I never overspent. If you want to learn about having faith with works, read the autobiography of George Mueller, Raising the Orphans. Read about Hudson Taylor in China. All of this is available now in audio form. You can go online and listen to it on YouTube on my channel, Sermon Library, because I recorded the whole thing. You can listen to it. I recommend that you do. It's always better to listen to hear what people do in faith and action to the extreme, so that if and when it happens to you, you'll be ready. And by the way, I would never live this life as a Christian without stepping out in faith and watching God take care of things. When I go to help the homeless, especially the homeless mothers and children. That's extra money that I could use towards bills. That's extra money I could use to repair my house. But yet it's my giving and my tithe that I must pay, because it is what I know I need to do. And I do it. And God richly blesses me for it. God always repays when you give to the poor. Okay, this is James chapter 2, verse 20. Thank you for listening to Discovering the Scriptures. Please go down below and like it and subscribe. And then that way it will help this to be put out to more people to see. And this way we can bring the Scriptures to the world to help us all understand. God bless you in your journeys.